What the hell was that about? Roll the tape.
I'd like to pay tribute to Liz Truss for her dedicated public service to the country. She has led with dignity and grace through a time of great change and under exceptionally difficult circumstances, both at home and abroad. I am humbled and honoured to have the support of my parliamentary colleagues and to be elected as leader of the Conservative and Unionist Party. It is the greatest privilege of my life to be able to serve the party I love and give back to the country I owe so much to. The United Kingdom is a great country, but there is no doubt we face a profound economic challenge. We now need stability and unity, and I will make it my utmost priority to bring our party and our country together, because that is the only way we will overcome the challenges we face and build a better, more prosperous future for our children and our grandchildren. I pledge that I will serve you with integrity and humility, and I will work day in, day out to deliver for the British people.
Absolutely bizarre. I would say not only less charismatic than Liz Truss, but less charismatic than the lettuce, which outlived Liz Truss. I mean, he makes Theresa May look like one of the great orators of our time. I mean, hostage video? Maybe it's hostage video. Rishi, blink twice if you want Tory MPs to put in the requisite number of letters to boot you out, because I think we all know how this is going to end. As soulless as the economic ideology that the Tories, of course, have imposed on this country over the last few years. Now, fair enough, some of you might think, bit superficial, talking about his comically terrible presentation skills. Boris Johnson was seen by some as a charismatic, big personality sort of guy, and look how that ended. So maybe we need a slightly more substantial critique of a man who is now British Prime Minister, twice as wealthy as our unelected head of state. Nice to live in a thriving democracy. Now, let's just think, therefore, not just about his presentation skills. This is a man who had an ill-deserved period of popularity. He was the most popular politician in the country for a while because of the furlough scheme. That was a measure which most Western nations had to introduce to prevent the economy collapsing during COVID. But then he was associated with people getting money in their bank accounts. Of course, that gave him this kind of superficial level of popularity, which then, of course, detonated. Now, he's out to help out. That was his big scheme, which became associated with a sixth of all COVID clusters in the summer of 2020. I mean, people died because of that absurdly ridiculous policy. This is a man who, during the pandemic, delayed the autumn lockdown by bringing in lockdown skeptics into number 10 and successfully convincing Boris Johnson not to introduce a lockdown. What does that mean? It meant infection spiraled out of control, and then we had to have a lockdown anyway. It just meant it was more severe and for longer. And we also got the emergence of the first big variant, which was the Kent variant, or became known as the Alpha variant, unsurprising, when infections were allowed to spiral completely out of control. Is a man who earlier this year did £17 billion worth of cuts which were buried in his mini budget, or last year even, sorry. It's been a long few years. He imposed real terms pay cuts on the public sector workers that Tory ministers hypocritically applauded from their balconies, from their porches, from their windows. He, of course, boasted of taking money from poor urban areas and giving them to rich areas instead. So, I mean, we can see the statistics just bearing that out even more. I mean, he had this £1 billion pot of money supposedly for struggling towns. Almost all of that went to Tory-held constituencies. During the leadership election, we just had a leadership election, the one against Liz Truss, he suggested adding vilification of Britain to those treated as extremists. What does that even mean? Does that mean people talking about, for example, the terrible crimes committed by the British Empire? I mean, it's literally the sort of thing you'd expect some sort of tin pot dictatorship to come up with, like, for example, in Hungary. He also said that trans women aren't women and started speaking like a weird noble lord from the 14th century, talking about our women being cancelled by lefty woke people. So he's clearly going to do a renewed anti-LGBTQ agenda now he's PM. It's not good, is it? It's not great. So what we've got ahead from this bizarre robot is he's going to, he's to the right of Boris Johnson on the economy. A lot of the reason Tory MPs didn't like Boris Johnson was because they thought he was too economically interventionist and high tax. So Rishi Sunak is more in the mould of a roll back the stay, austerity is a good thing ideologically, and that is now what they're going to do in the aftermath of the massive nuclear bomb that Liz Truss detonated in the British economy. I think we need to be honest about this. It ain't looking good. And the only hope, of course, is not just to boot yet another Tory leader out of office, but to boot the lot of them out. There's always a search, often by centrists and moderates, so-called, for decent Tories. And for a long time, Rishi Sunak was seen or presented as such. He isn't that. He's an ideologically right-wing Tory from the right of the party historically. The idea now he's been seen as a moderate just shows how far politics has shifted. And he's going to impose devastating cuts, which are going to again hammer the very people who've been hammered in the last 12 lost years, which have caused this longest squeeze in living standards for workers since the early 19th century. So, let him be the fifth and the last Tory Prime Minister of this age, him and his truly bizarre robotic speeches. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. I'll see you soon.